On this edition of Time About the Movies, welcome to the bottomless pit that is the hell of January movies. These are the films that clearly the studios had high hopes for going into the production, and then they saw the film and they realized, oh shit, we fucked up badly because we've got a bad horror movie here that is going to make you laugh out loud when you watch some of the footage I have here. Dwayne Johnson stars in a family comedy that is one of the stupidest things he's ever done, and trust me, that's saying a lot. And we have our melodramatic drama with two notable named actors in here, but you expect a whole lot more from them. But not in the month of January, January 22nd, 2010. That's the subject of today's episode of Time About the Movies, coming up next. Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies. Yes, we are taking a look at the movies of January 22nd, 2010, and ladies and gentlemen, that's our first movie this week, and that is Legion, which follows a group of people as they attempt to protect an infant savior from angels and the possessed in an apocalypse. And yeah, if you're expecting me to take any of that seriously after showing me some of the stupidest looking creatures I have ever seen in my life, I mean, Demon Granny. That's all I have to tell you. Demon Granny looks fucking stupid. I mean, looks like the dumbest thing I have ever. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a horror movie. That their attempt to try to be scary and all that type of stuff, and it just doesn't work, man. And the worst part is, there's a good cast involved in this movie. You got Paul Bettany, Lucas Black, Tyrese Gibson, Adrian Padalecki, Kate Walsh, Dennis Quaid, Charles Dutton. You know, there are a lot of notable names in this movie, good names in here, but they're just given nothing to do in here. And I'm sorry, if this was your attempt to try to scare people, you failed miserably, because you'll be laughing more than I did watching this movie. I mean, you saw how bad it was. I couldn't even get through the first 10 seconds without butting in the trailer there, because it's just like the Dennis Quaid's just like, what the heck is that? It's just like, it's an ice cream truck, stupid. You don't know what an ice cream truck is? Seriously? Like I said, you'll be laughing more at the stupidity of some of these creatures than the actual scares in this movie. I mean, the kid at the end of that trailer too it's just like, come on, man, like, you gotta be smarter than that. And if the movie was just a so bad it's good type of a film, like something on the lines of an Evil Dead movie, I would probably recommend it. But nope, it can't even do that, because we gotta have all these huge points of dialogue that have no purpose to the story whatsoever, and are just thrown in there so it can seem like this is much more important than it has to be. And no, there's nothing important going on in this movie. It's just the fact that Paul Bettany is the lead star of the movie, and you barely saw him in that trailer there. They didn't care about telling a story. They didn't care about doing anything. They knew the film was going to flop. So let's just say, screw it. Let's put some of the stupidest moments in there and try to trick people into scaring them, which you failed miserably at that, because you'll be laughing more at this movie than you'll be terrified. At least that's what happened with me when I saw it. So yeah, I think we can pretty much sum up that one as a bad movie. Legion, not a good horror movie at all. So let's go ahead and keep digging into the shit pile, ladies and gentlemen, because as bad as The Spy Next Door was last time we met, Tooth Fairy is much, much worse. Oh no, buddy! You've got the wrong mindset for this one, Dwayne. I'm sorry, you just have it. But this is the Tooth Fairy. This is a film that is clearly something that was clearly written for Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 1980s and 90s, but I'm sure he did the same thing to Dwayne Johnson that he did to Sylvester Stallone when he, the story about Stopping My Mom was shoot, where Stallone only took it because he had heard Schwarzenegger was going to do it, but then it turned out not to be the case as part of their ongoing war that they had back in the day before they became best buddies later on down the road. But yeah, he did the same thing to Dwayne Johnson here. You cannot convince me otherwise, because this was originally written as a script for Schwarzenegger back in the day. And yeah, I think the end results speak for themselves here. Derek Thompson, played by Dwayne Johnson, is the Tooth Fairy, a hard-charging minor league hockey player whose nickname comes from his habits of separating opposing players from their bicuspids. When Derek discourages a youngster's hopes, he's sentenced to 1 week hard labor as a real Tooth Fairy, complete with the requested tutu, wings, and magic wand. At first, Derek can't handle the tooth, and for God's sakes, 20th Century Fox, really? The tooth puns in here. Just... It's getting into the plot synopsis. At first, Derek can't handle the tooth, bumbling and stumbling as he tries to furtively wing his way through strangers' homes, doing what tooth fairies do. But as Derek slowly adapts to his new position, he begins to rediscover his own forgotten dreams. Much like the forgotten dreams of the people who made this movie, who just basically said, fuck it, we don't care about your kids' intelligence. We got the guy who made the Santa Claus movies, and Connie and Carla. Good fucking God, this movie is abysmal. I don't care if it's a kid's movie. I don't care if it was released in the month of January. There's no goddamn reason why this movie should have been made. This movie is an atrociously bad movie with so many good, talented people in here. I mean, you see it. Dwayne Johnson, Ashley Judd, Julie Andrews, Stephen Merchant, Seth MacFarlane's in here, Brandon T. Jackson, Billy Crystal's in this movie. He's uncredited in here because he knows this movie is garbage. This is the guy that made bad movies like My Giant and Father's Day, and yet this is the bottom of the barrel for him. Like, think about all the bad movies he's made. This is the worst one. And again, way to waste Ashley Judd once again, folks. Like, seriously, nobody knew what to do with her. Like, this is a really good actress back in the day, and they had no idea what the fuck to do with her. It's just kind of like, okay, let's put her in a movie. Let's put her in, you know, these crime thrillers. Oh, that didn't work. Excuse me. I'm getting so mad that I'm coughing up. But let's put her in a romantic comedy. Well, that didn't work. Let's put her in these family comedies. Well, shit, that doesn't work either. We are really wasting this woman's talents. I mean, like, this whole movie is a goddamn joke. And the kid who's acting like he's better than Dwayne Johnson is just like, oh, is this an old-timers meeting? It's just like, shut the fuck up, dude. Even I could beat your ass. I'm not even that older compared to the kid in this movie. I mean, back then I think he and I would probably be the same age, but I could beat the crap out of this motherfucker. And be grateful I stopped the trailer where it did, because it got worse and worse from there. Like, the jokes in here are not good. They wasted so much of your goddamn time with this movie, and this is written by 5 writers, good writers: Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel, Randy Mayam Singer, who did Mrs. Doubtfire, Joshua Stratton and Jennifer Ventimiglia. Like, these are people that you expect a lot better from. These are people that wrote for The Simpsons, too, and it just came together in a bad way, and audiences bought it the fuck up because there was no other family movies out in January, and, you know, heaven forbid we go see the films in December that we completely looked over, like The Princess and the Frog, or I don't know what other family films that were out there back then that were much better. Hell, I would say go watch Alvin and the Chipmunks: The Squeakle again, because at least that one had something of value to it. And I'm just noticing something here. Guess who one of the producers of this movie is? Jason Blum. Yeah, this is one of his early movies before he eventually made it to Blumhouse Pictures. And, I mean, what more do I gotta say about this movie, man? This is a garbage film. And it makes sense that the sequel that came out just a couple years later that went direct-to-video starred Larry the Cable Guy, because apparently this was around the time when Larry the Cable Guy would take any direct-to-video sequel starring a big action star and... again, sorry about that, and completely star in a movie that's a direct-to-video sequel that the main star of the original film would be like, ain't no goddamn way I'm doing this. Like, he was in Jingle All the Way too, for God's sakes. Like, I'm frustrated thinking about this movie. So, yeah, this is easily the worst film of the whole week. I mean, Legion at least was bad in a so bad it's good kind of way, but this was just rough to sit through, man. This is unbearable. This is the type of movie that would have killed Dwayne Johnson's career, but I think he realized, yeah, I made a terrible mistake saying yes to this, and eventually he would go on to become the big action star that we know him now, and a much bigger success than he was back at the start of the decade. So let's just say that the beginning of the decade was bad, but it got better when the decade was over for him. Much, much better. So let's see if we can kind of turn the tide around with our last film that we have here. Harrison Ford and Brendan Fraser starring in the melodrama Extraordinary Measures. So before we get to this movie, a little bit of a history lesson. Back in 1979, CBS basically became the new owners of Cinema Center Films, which was the company that put out the Charlie Brown movies, Snoopy Come Home and A Boy Named Charlie Brown, among other things. And they eventually decided to make movies under their as using the network as the title of their film company. A lot of studios were doing it at the time. ABC was doing it with ABC Circle Films, and then NBC was doing it with NBC. So this wasn't a new thing in general. And they put these movies out, and most of them were not very successful, mostly because a lot of the films they took were films that were basically just TV pilots and just scripts that weren't written by the best people. You had stuff like Backroads, The Challenge, Table for Five, Finders Keepers, Windy City, American Dreamer. The most successful one I see here is Better Off Dead, which, that's probably their most successful movie in general, and that's the one that's had the bigger lasting impact, the one with John Cusack in it. But everything else has been pure garbage, and so time is good. So they waited 25 years later to try to do this again, and you would think they would learn their lesson and actually get people who have written better scripts than the ones that they were making back in the day. And judging by this first film, not so much. This is about as bland of a melodramatic drama as you can get. You have a story about these parents, played by Brendan Fraser and Kerry Russell, who form a biotechnology company to develop a drug to save the life of their children who have a life-threatening disease. They get help with another doctor, played by Harrison Ford, and the only thing that's up from the other movies that I talked about before was the fact that they got bigger names involved in this than they did back in the 70s and 80s, even though they did have some movies with big names back then. Gene Hackman was in Target, John Cusack was in Better Off Dead, Kate Capshaw and John Shea were in Windy City, but it seemed like nothing really had changed because, yeah, this feels like a script that could easily been used for a television series. Like, this could have been an episode of House or an episode of ER. But no, this is a big screen movie, and it's got the director of What Happens in Vegas involved in it, which seems really odd for them to do that, but lo and behold, there it is. And yeah, the film just doesn't work. Brendan Fraser and Harrison Ford are at least trying to hold it together and try to give us something here. I mean, they're not bad actors in here. Everybody in here is playing their parts very well. Kerry Russell's okay in here. Courtney B. Vance has a good role in here as well. But at the same time, nothing really amounts to anything you haven't seen done before. It's a story that is clearly there to just get you to tear up quickly, and it's not worth it, man. It really doesn't work as a whole, and the film just kind of struggles to get going and really give you something here. There's just nothing really about it that makes it stand up on its own. The only thing I can say that's actually tolerable about it is the casting in here. I think the casting overall is fine, but there is no reason to release this movie on a big screen. Like, it's only on the big screen, I think, because it got Harrison Ford, it got Brendan Fraser. They're named actors, they're Oscar nominees, they're people that they recognize a lot of. But I guarantee you that this was made 20 years ago. This would have been the Sunday movie of the week on CBS easily. This wouldn't have been something that would have went to the big screen. It's not a good movie. It's not a good film overall, but in the credit of CBS Films, it would eventually get better. It will start off pretty rocky early on with some of the films they were putting out, but they do have much better movies than the CBS of the films of the 70s and 80s. CBS theatrical films is what it was, but we have a little bit to get to before we get to those ones. But it's going to be rough for the first couple of films that we have here, because yeah, I'm looking at some of the movies that we have here. Yeah, it's going to get rough early on, especially with the next movie we've got coming up in April, which, yeah, if you wanted to, literally the definition of a film by CBS Films, by taking one of CBS's stars that they were really pushing hard and putting him in a movie with Jennifer Lopez. That should give you an indication of what movie that's going to be, but all in a good time. We will get to that in April, but Extraordinary Measures, there ain't nothing extraordinary about it per se, so there you go. That's Extraordinary Measures. What a lousy week for movies. But then again, that's what you get in the month of January. And we finally wrap January up next week with at least a better film to end the month on, with Mel Gibson starring in Martin Campbell's latest film, Edge of Darkness. But then you got to have your really bad comedy, just like we had a couple weeks ago. A good movie from Warner Brothers, and then a bad comedy to follow that up. This time it's not from Warner Brothers. It's Disney, with Kristen Bell starring in the romantic comedy When in Rome. And I think you got an indication of which one's going to be better than the other. But we'll talk about both of those movies. That'll be coming up tomorrow on the show, so be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, Go ahead and hit that like button, the subscribe button, the notification button, and also our bell so you can get updates on when new videos come out. And also check out our playlist and also the previous episode. So with all that said, whether it's the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. So until next time, take care. Good night.